Welcome back here to This Week in Pro Football. Pat Callahan joining you, and I am very, very privileged to be joined by this gentleman, Hall of Famer, 126 wins and a 15-year career as a head coach and two-time Sporting News Coach of the Year. That would be Dick Vermeil. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing okay for an old man, thank you.
Well, that's good. Good for you. All right, Coach, it is playoff time. You have been through this crucible, and what I'd like to do in this discussion is to rely on your experiences as a coach. And I want to start with the fact that the local team, 10-1, coming off a Super Bowl appearance, defending NFC champion, they're 10-1, they're winning tough games, and all of a sudden the wheels appear to come off. How does that work with a team where they seem to be firing on all cylinders for 11 games, and then all of a sudden everything goes wrong?
Well, there's never any one answer, okay, that can answer the complexity of what has taken place. The defense is nowhere close to what it was last year. It was playing pretty well. It played excellent against Miami Dolphins, who had scored a ton of points the week before. I just think sometimes the process that you've been using has to keep improving to keep it going forward. And, I don't fault the scheme or coaches. I think sometimes things build up. First players' attitudes start thinking, hey, we're pretty good. All we have to do is line up and play. That's wrong today. You have to line up and play well. And they haven't been able to do that, even in their wins against, Buffalo. Buffalo was over 500-something yards. When they came from behind and beat the Cowboys were over 400-something yards.
Right.
When then they upset the Chiefs at the end of the game.
Right.
Some of those things that happen in those games send a message that what might be transpiring in the future or the rest of the season. And they started going downhill, and they haven't been able to get out of it. Get the one win against the Giants in the first Giants game, and they could have lost that one.
I know, and
they've lost their edge. Obviously, me included, have had them overestimated in terms of how good they're going to be. Maybe the talent level isn't quite what we thought it was going to be with the new additions to the people they lost on defense. They lost a lot of guys,
right?
And a couple of the draft choices haven't been outstanding. They've been making a contribution, but it isn't a big contribution.
All right.
So there's a lot of things. You lose two fine coordinators. Offensive coordinator goes to Baltimore, proves he's a very fine coach.
Sure.
He wins 9 games in the first season, taking over a losing football team with a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Pretty good job.
Yeah.
Defensive coordinator goes to Arizona, improves that situation, and has got a chance somewhere down the road to be a real good football team with Stroud at quarterback position.
That's true.
And sometimes when you replace those people that leave, you get an upgrade. Sometimes they're not quite as good as the people left. And sometimes they need a year or two to catch up.
Right.
We don't know where we are right now.
And that's always the bane, isn't it, of successful teams, because it is their assistants who get poached, as opposed to middling teams, 7 and 10 teams. You're not looking for their offensive coordinator, right?
I think many times owners make a mistake by hiring based on the success of that team.
Right.
And what they do is they end up hiring a system. And maybe the system doesn't, when they bring them in with the new coach, doesn't bring a great process along with it.
Sure enough.
And a great depth and leadership, and it sort of backfires on them. There's been, John McVay was a great hire. Who would have guessed he would be as successful as he is? He probably did a better job of coaching this year than he did when they won it all.
I think that's an excellent point. Now, let me ask you this, Coach. In your experience, is there such a thing as a tired football team? The Eagles have played 37 games the last 2 years because of their successful run last year, and it is a veteran-laden team. Could the Eagles simply be tired after playing all of that football, and especially playing a number of close games in their first 11 games this year?
I don't believe that. Everybody else plays a lot of games. All these teams, some of these teams have played a lot of games too. I don't think the Eagles are using that as an excuse. I've read it in the media. I don't believe I've heard Nick Sirianni say my team's tired. That's why we're losing. Okay. It's easy to go that way. I don't believe in it. When players used to come to me once in a while and say, Coach, I'm really getting tired. You know what I would say? Then spend more time in the offseason and come here better shape to recover quickly so you can line up and earn your salary next Sunday. Okay. I'm very cold in regard to that. There's no excuse for getting tired unless you're not working hard enough. Now, there are programs in the modern systems of coaching and the limits the union puts on him that there can be a deterioration because you overprotect him, concerned about injuries. So there's more walkthroughs and more of this. Players don't get better in walkthroughs, especially defensive linemen and especially quarterbacks. And you can end up doing too much of that, and pretty quick, the physical explosion ability and the stamina leaves, especially the defensive lineman first.
Okay.
So, I'm old fashioned.
I love that.
There's a couple teams that work old fashioned right now that are awfully good. Okay. I know what they're doing. Okay.
I don't mind old fashioned at all, Coach. Don't mind it at all. Speaking about the head coach, and again, relying on your experience now, Nick Sirianni is coming into this playoff markedly different than last year. A ton of pressure on him, a cacophony of sound, questioning the decisions that he has made. How does a coach, in preparing for a playoff run, how did you do it? How do you shut that all off and just try and focus on getting this ship in the right direction?
Well, Pat, when I was at UCLA, there was another office close to me that included a great coach named,
John Wooden. Right.
John Wooden told me early in my campaign, my first big job, Coach, he says, what they write about you that's really good in the media and they say on the radio talk shows is probably not all true. What they say about you that is not really good in either the radio show or the newspapers is probably not all true.
Right.
So you don't need the distraction. He says, if I were you, I did this especially in my career and got going. Don't read the paper or listen to talk shows during the season. He says that all it can be is a distraction. Right. Now, believe this or not, Pat, I stayed with that rule. Everything he asked me to do in the 2 years I was around him, 3 years actually,
right,
I held on to.
Right.
A lot smarter than me and more successful than any coach in America.
Right.
And if he gives you that common sense responses and to guide you, you better listen. And that's what when they were, you know better than I, Pat, very seldom they hire a coach to take over a good organization.
Yeah.
We take over the Eagles, it's the worst organization in football. We take over the Rams, it's the worst organization in football. Hell, my first year at the Rams, we lost 8 in a row.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you listen to the media and you listen to the radio and you read that stuff, it's a drain on you emotionally. None of us like to be criticized that critically, Yeah. So I just stayed away from it. Even today, I read or watch almost nothing that my name's in it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be distorted thinking I'm better than I am. I don't want to be distorted thinking I'm worse than I am. Okay.
Yeah. That's an excellent philosophy. But, of course, everything written about you now is pretty positive. I'll say that much. But I understand what you're saying. Coach, let me ask you now about the quarterback. It's always the glamour position. It's the linchpin usually of how a team plays. You've dealt in your professional experience with guys, very, very confident guys, Kurt Warner, Trent Green, Ron Jaworski. As a coach, you'd be able to sense if a quarterback is either, number one, struggling with mechanics, or two, losing confidence. Do you see either one of those manifesting with Jalen Hurts?
I think he struggled a little bit from not having the overall support staff he had a year ago, whether it's coaching, teammates, scheme, pluses or minuses, and these kinds of things. It's obvious he's not what he was. He's 12 points below his quarterback efficiency rating last year.
Right. Okay,
yards per pass attempt is down. Percentage increase, percentage completion is slightly up. Okay, and those kind of things. They are not the football team offensively that they were. They're still 7th or 8th best offensive football. They're not that bad. Their standards were so high because they played so well. And it's hard to pinpoint. The most obvious thing is the only thing really, really drastically different is the coordinator's gone.
Yeah.
That's the most drastic. Now, whether he made that kind of contribution or didn't make that kind of contribution, no one can say.
Right.
But the end result, he's not playing as well as he did. Now, maybe the offensive line isn't playing as well as it did either. The defense certainly is not. So they're not on the field like in the same kind of an atmosphere and an environment that they were last year when they're banging heads and knocking people down. They're not doing that right now. Their defense has dropped almost to the bottom from what it was.
Yeah.
So, I think they gave up fewer points of football than anybody a year ago.
Yeah.
They're 30th in the league right now.
Yeah.
So it's more than any one thing, but it's a combination of a lot of things.
Coach, in terms of the game Monday night, I've always thought that a team, like a play, just a set of downs or even a play, say defensively like you're talking about, a fumble recovery, a pick six, a big sack, some sort of play, can all of a sudden a team can exhale and turn the momentum right back on. Have you seen that in your experience as a coach?
Oh, yeah.
You turn on just one play, two plays, and the 10-1 Eagles could all of a sudden resurface?
Yeah, they could. They could respond. It's gonna be hard from where they've been. They've lost to 4 losing teams.
Right.
Playoff teams don't normally lose.
Right.
Sometimes losing to one losing team can hurt your playoff situation.
Right.
But when you lose to 4, but the Eagles have beaten 6 playoff teams.
Yeah.
So where are they?
Yeah, I know.
What are they?
Yeah.
The first half of the league season, they were as good as anybody in football.
Right.
Then they go through the evolution of downfall, even in winning, beating playoff teams. That they were fortunate to win because some explosive plays gave them the victory in the fourth quarter.
Right.
When the numbers dictated that the other team should win.
Sure, fair enough.
So, I know this in a single game. It's happened to me a number of times, especially if you have a great special teams player.
Right.
You're standing on a sideline, you're going to lose. I can think of games. A number of games in 5 years at Kansas City had Dante Hall returning punts and kickoff.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Sure.
All of a sudden, we go behind with 3 minutes to go, and they kick off, and he scores. We're back ahead.
Right.
Or we finally stopped the team, and they punt us the ball. He returns it for a touchdown.
Yes.
Or brings it out to the 50-yard line.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, boom, everyone goes like this.
Yeah.
There are players on the Eagles team that can do that too.
Yeah.
There are players. That little punt returner they have, he's a dynamic little player.
Yeah, he is, and he runs forward. I love it. He runs
He's
straight up.
done it a couple times.
That's right.
And all of a sudden, wake you up. But it's hard for a head coach to turn around, cheer everybody's ass out, and spark them up. All of a sudden, you go play better.
Right.
I don't think I've ever been successful doing that. At halftime, a couple times, I think maybe we shook them up a little bit, and they went out and played better than they were playing. But more or less, when a team gets a spark during the ball game and reignites momentum, some player does something special.
All right. Coach, how do you see it Monday night? Do you see that the Philadelphia can put aside this miserable run they've been on and start a playoff run here?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, they're a better team than Tampa. Yeah, they're a better team than Tampa Bay. And Eagles have only scored 5 more points than they've given up, okay? Yeah. And Tampa Bay has scored 23 more points than they've given up. Yeah. Tampa Bay is playing better defense than the Eagles play. Eagles play better offense. So it's going to be who the best team is game day. I think overall the Eagles are a better football team. Right. And I think we need the ignition of great competition to aspire a team that's been in the Super Bowl, all those kind of things.
Right.
They need a little extra to all of a sudden get that intense feeling. Boy, I think the playoff will excite them.
Right.
Being in that atmosphere again, it'll remind them what they were.
All right.
And I will play better than we played. I promise you we'll play better than we played the last 6-7 weeks. I really believe that. But it won't be easy. I'm a fan of Baker Mayfield, okay?
Yeah.
He's been a quarterback that's been in the situation wasn't conducive to quarterback success. He's overcome it here in Tampa Bay. He really has done some good things.
Yeah. And he's got a rocket arm. There's no doubt.
Yeah, and he's a tough guy.
Yeah.
And yes, he doesn't have the talent that our quarterback has.
Right.
Jalen has unlimited talent.
Right.
But all those guys with unlimited talent need the support of other people.
Right. Coach, one last question before I let you go, and thank you very much for taking all this time. And that is just a comment from you. And Bill Belichick steps down today after a 24-year run as the head coach of the New England Patriots. I mentioned at the top of the show how In those 24 years, the other 31 NFL teams hired 163 coaches.
Yeah.
While he was there. While he was there. Just give me your thoughts on Belichick, and are you surprised that he wants to continue as an NFL head coach?
Okay. I mean, I'll answer maybe not in your order of question. I will say this. I'm not surprised he wants to continue. I was surprised they let him go. I was surprised. I think the loyalty ought to be deeper than that.
Right.
Okay. That's just me. Old-fashioned again.
Right.
No better football coach in the history of the game, not Lombardi or any of these guys. No one has done a better job than he's done. I wish I had more Belichick in me, and maybe I'd have won more ball games. And
I'll say,
people say, well, he had Brady. Well, when I won, I had Jaworski. When I won, I had Kurt Warner. When I won, I had Trent Green. We all need great quarterbacks to win.
Right.
He went beyond just winning. He went beyond just winning. And I just think, one time I heard an owner told me the biggest mistake he ever made was firing Tom Coughlin. Okay. So he went to New York Giants and won two Super Bowls.
2 Super Bowls, right.
Okay. And I think it's a mistake, but I'm a fan of Robert Kraft. I've always liked him. He's always been respectful with me and treated me with respect, and it's appreciated. But I think we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes, and they'll hire someone good. I'll bet it's Vrabel, personally. That's.
Yeah, I think he'll be in demand. I think Coach Vrabel will be in demand. I think the Patriots actually will take a look at him.
They got a good coach there, coaching the offense right now, Bill Young. He proved he could coach at Houston, and he goes to Penn State. He won there. He goes to Houston. He took them to the playoffs. They never won it. Then they had a bad year, and they got rid of him. And they haven't been the same since. Maybe they're going to come back. But I think he's an excellent football coach.
I tell you. But we'll see. It's going to be fascinating, Coach, to see what happens with Coach Belichick, because I think
very few coaches end their career winning.
Yeah.
People asked me early when I left the Rams, when we won it all, I retired. One of the reasons, not a strong reason, but one of them was I wanted to be a head coach that had success and finished his career not getting fired. But you just stop and think, hey, Tom Landry was fired. Okay. The greatest coaches. Or they ask you to leave, So I've got a Coach of the Year trophy back here, the very first one I got in '79. Half the guys who were Coach of the Year were fired not many years after that. So
that's fair. That is fair. But I think you had a pretty good run, Coach, and I'm really happy. And
very gifted, very fortunate to have great owners.
Yeah. And
great coaching staff, and like Philadelphia, great city to coach football. As long as you don't read the paper, listen.
That's true. As long as you don't read the paper or turn the radio on. That's certainly true. All right. Well, listen, Coach Vermeil, thank you very much for taking all this time. It was great having you on, a great talking football.
Okay, Pat. Yeah, always a pleasure. You take care. Happy New Year.
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you. The great Dick Vermeil there, a Hall of Famer, and some great insight from him that I hope you enjoyed here on This Week in Pro Football. That'll do it for tonight's show. Enjoy all the football this weekend. Maybe not that Peacock game if you don't want to pay that money. I certainly understand that. But should be some great football. And then next week, divisional weekend, 4 great games as we move up the pyramid towards the Super Bowl. We'll see how the home team does when they travel to Tampa on Monday night. We'll talk to Sal Powell about that and many other NFL luminaries next week. Thank you very much to Xander Krause for producing. Thank you for watching. I think Philadelphia wins Monday night. I've been saying the Eagles have been winning. I've been saying it every week for the last 6 weeks. I've been wrong 5 out of 6 times. I think Coach Vermeil's right. I think they're the better team. Just a play or two, I think. And as Coach Vermeil mentioned, the fact that it's the playoff atmosphere, I think the players will respond to that. They just need a play or two to exhale, and then I think they win the game. We'll see what happens, and we'll talk to you next week on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Kennedy Ford.